Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cracking open a study guide. It's for a software product management capstone project.
Guide.pdf.
Exactly. Think of it as getting the inside scoop on how a simulated software product gets built step by step.
Yeah. And our goal is really to unpack that process,
Yeah.
make sense of the structure, the key activities,
Yeah.
especially if some of these ideas, are maybe new to you listening.
Right, because maybe you're in tech, maybe project management, or maybe you're just curious, like, how does an app actually happen?
hmm
So this deep dive, it gives you a really structured look behind the curtain. We'll pull out the core stuff, the planning involved.
And the capstone itself is kind of fascinating. It's set up as this 6-week thing, originally for people who'd done 5 other SPM courses.
So they'd apply what they learned.
Exactly. But then, for fall 2017, they actually opened it up to everyone.
Oh, okay.
So the study guide becomes super important, right? It acts like a bridge, pointing back to lessons in those core courses so newcomers can get up to speed.
Makes sense. Okay, so right away, the guide hammers on agile practices, and specifically Scrum.
Yeah, that's central.
It even flags some intro lessons you should check out, like the Agile Manifesto, those core principles,
Right.
different process models, continuous delivery, stuff like that, and then specific Agile techniques too.
Like using Agile with process models, extreme programming, and, well, Scrum, obviously.
It really sets the stage for how this whole simulation is going to run.
And, if you think about the bigger picture, this focus on Agile and Scrum, that's pretty much mirroring what's happening out there in the software world.
True, it's all about flexibility iteration.
Responding to change, yeah. So the capstone is definitely reflecting real-world approaches.
Okay, so week one, it dives right into eliciting requirements. Sounds a bit formal, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But it's basically just understanding what the client actually wants the software to do.
Right, so that means like talking to the client, talking to an expert advisor.
And then, really importantly, discussing all that with the development team, the
Uh-huh.
people who will actually build it.
Got it. That initial stage feels really critical.
Oh, absolutely. The guide points to key lessons from the Client Needs and Software Requirements course.
Like what?
Well, like, what is a requirement, fundamentally? What are the different types, functional versus non-functional?
Oh, okay.
How do you control the scope, stop it from ballooning, and how requirements feed into the actual design later on?
And it's not just the tech stuff, is it? I saw mentions of user considerations involving the client actively.
Yes. And how you handle requirements, specifically in Agile, they seem keen on baking in that user focus right from the start.
Yeah, it's like they're asking that key question, are we building the right thing? Not just building something technically correct.
Exactly. And week 1 wraps up with the main assignment, the requirements document. And the format they insist on is user stories.
Ah, user stories. Okay. The guide specifically says check out the lesson on those from the client needs course.
Makes sense. It's a core Agile technique.
And it even suggests redoing those initial meeting simulations, like go back and listen again.
Yeah, to see if you missed anything.
Yeah.
Any hidden requirements.
That really shows that iterative idea, doesn't it? Even right at the beginning.
It really does. It's not a one-and-done thing. You
Yeah.
keep refining that suggestion to revisit. That underlines the Agile principle of continuous learning.
Okay, moving into week 2. The focus shifts now to refining requirements and risk planning.
Right, so you've got your first draft of user stories. Now you need to sharpen them up and think about what could go wrong.
First up is Assignment 2.1, the Requirements Technical Review. That sounds like looking at other people's work.
Exactly, it's a peer review. You're looking at other learners' requirements docs.
Okay.
And the lessons they recommend focus on, well, what makes a good user story?
Right, like is it clear, testable, small enough?
Yeah, all those INVEST criteria, independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, testable. And also, how to deal with requirements that are just vague,
Yeah.
ambiguous.
Because nobody wants that. Right, leads to confusion.
Totally. Then there's assignment 2.4, the risk plan.
Okay. Potential problems.
Yeah, and for this, they point to the Agile Planning for Software Products course. Lessons on common causes of failure in software projects.
Hmm.
How to assess risks, like how likely is this and how bad would it be if it happened? And then strategies,
Hmm.
contingency plans, mitigation.
Risk management. It's not just about hoping nothing goes wrong.
Definitely not. It's about being prepared,
Yeah.
minimizing the damage when things inevitably do go sideways.
And the guide says rewatch the risk discussion with the dev team.
Uh-huh. It highlights the spotting risks isn't just one person's job. It's a team effort. Everyone brings a different perspective.
Makes sense. Okay. Week 3, preparing for Sprint 1. Sounds like a lot of setup before the coding starts.
It is quite a bit of groundwork. Learners get a suggested list of user stories, which kind of levels the playing field for the development part.
Okay.
And then a really key piece of info arrives in email from the dev team.
Ah, what's in that?
Their feedback on the requirements docs. And crucially, it includes size estimates for the user stories.
Using story points.
Yep, story points, that relative measure of effort. And it also flags any task dependencies. You know, this thing needs to be done before that thing can start.
Okay, story points and dependencies. Guide points back to agile planning again for those lessons.
Right.
So story points. It's like the team saying, this feels like a medium effort story compared to that small one, not this will take 12 hours.
Exactly that. It's more about relative complexity and effort, especially early on. Avoids getting stuck on precise time guesses that are often wrong anyway.
Gotcha. And dependencies, yeah, like you said, can't build the roof before the walls.
Pretty much.
So then assignment 3.8 is the week 3 release plan. This sounds like the big picture strategy.
It is. You're deciding which user stories go into which of the 3 sprints.
Based on?
Based on priorities, the risks you identified, those dependencies, and the story point estimates. It's sadly a bit of a juggling act.
I bet. This is where you start thinking strategically about delivering value bit by bit, right?
Precisely. The lesson on release plans they recommend would be vital here, understanding that sequencing over multiple sprints.
And week 3 keeps going. Assignment 3.11, iteration plan for sprint 1.
Right, so now the dev team gives you their initial plan for just the first sprint.
Okay, so more detail.
Much more detailed, breaking down user stories into smaller tasks, estimating time for those tasks, assigning developers, and your job as the product manager is to give feedback on their plan.
Ah, so it's collaborative, not just top down.
Very much so. That's core to Agile. The dev team has a big say in how the work gets done sprint by sprint. The lessons cover task time estimation, dependencies at this finer level, and what an iteration plan actually looks like.
And one more for week 3, assignment 3.13, product wireframe. Getting visual now.
Yep. You create a basic sketch, a wireframe of at least 1 page, just a rough layout to show the client.
Give them a feel for it.
Exactly. And there's a recommended lesson on wireframes from the Client Needs course. Even this early, you're visualizing the end product.
Yeah, it helps everyone get on the same page about the UI, the flow.
It's a communication tool, absolutely.
Yeah.
Client, PM, dev team, shared understanding.
Okay, week 4. Sprint 1, execution and planning for sprint 2. The actual development starts.
That's right. The first sprint kicks off. And a really key activity now is the daily stand-up meeting with the dev team.
Those short, sharp meetings.
Uh-huh. The guide recommends lessons on Scrum generally, and the purpose of these stand-ups, keeping everyone synced on progress, any blockers, what's next.
Keep the momentum going.
Exactly. And then at the end of the week, there's a client demo.
Showing the working software. That seems crucial for feedback.
Oh, massively. Get feedback early, keep the client looped in. They also mention backlog refinement.
Which is like tidying up the to-do list.
Yeah. Pretty much. Clarifying stories, maybe breaking some down, reprioritizing the main list, the product backlog for future sprints. Lessons cover involving clients, the backlog itself, and the sprint review meeting where the demo happens.
The demo ensures you're building what they actually need.
Right, and backlog refinement keeps the future work pipeline healthy and ready. It's ongoing.
Then, after the sprint review, there's a sprint retrospective meeting.
Yep, the team looks back. How did sprint 1 go? What worked? What could be better next time?
Learning and improving.
Continuous improvement, absolutely. The guide points to lessons on retrospectives and potential team issues. It's a really valuable part of Agile.
Week 4 also has assignment 4.3, writing acceptance criteria and tests.
Ah, yes. Defining done.
So, for each user story, you spell out exactly what conditions must be met for it to be considered complete and working correctly, right?
Exactly. Specific, measurable criteria, often framed as tests you can actually run. And there's a lesson specifically on acceptance tests.
Then, assignment 4.7, iteration burn down sprint 1. That sounds like a chart.
It is. It's a visual way to track progress within the sprint. Shows work completed versus work remaining day by day.
Like a progress bar for the sprint itself.
Good analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
Lets you see at a glance if the team's on track to finish what they planned for that sprint. And yes, there's a lesson on iteration burn down charts.
Okay, wrapping up week 4. Assignment 4.11, an updated release plan.
Makes sense.
And assignment 4.13, evaluating the iteration plan for sprint 2. For updating the release plan, they mentioned a lesson on velocity.
Ah, velocity. Key agile metric.
Which is basically how much stuff the team got done in sprint 1.
Essentially, yes. How
Yeah.
many story points they completed. Knowing that helps you make a more realistic plan for the remaining sprints.
Right. You adjust your forecast based on actual performance.
Precisely.
Okay, week 5. Sprint 2, execution and planning for sprint 3. Feels like a similar rhythm to week 4 now.
It does. The iterative nature really shows. Daily stand-ups, client demo, backlog refinement, planning the next sprint. The core loop repeats.
But the team's learning as they go.
Hopefully. Adapting based on sprint 1's experience.
But there are a couple of curveballs this week. Assignment 5.2, risk plan update.
Ah, okay. What triggers that?
A discussion about a critical feature that has dependencies. So they suggest revisiting lessons on dependencies and risk planning.
Makes sense. If a key piece is blocked or delayed, that definitely introduces new risks or changes existing ones. Risk management isn't a one-off task.
Good point. It needs ongoing attention.
As you learn more, the situation changes, so the plan needs to reflect that.
Then there's assignment 5.8, another update, this time to the week 5 release plan.
Why this time?
A new requirement dropped in. They need a demo for a trade show happening the week after next.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that would definitely throw a wrench in the works.
Right. Suddenly there's a hard deadline for a specific set of features, requires reprioritization.
Absolutely. The team needs to figure out what's essential for that trade show demo and adjust the plan accordingly. Might mean bumping other things.
We also get assignment 5.0, release burn down.
Okay, so now we have data from more than one sprint.
Exactly. So this chart tracks the overall progress across multiple sprints. Are we on track for the final goal?
Right. While the iteration burn down is for a single sprint, this gives you the bigger picture, the bird's eye view of the whole release. And there's a lesson on release burn down charts, naturally.
It provides that longer-term view, helps spot if you're drifting off course for the final deadlines.
Precise.
And finishing week 5, assignment 5.13 is evaluating the iteration plan for sprint 3, that recurring check by the product manager.
Ensuring the sprint plan is realistic and still aligns with the overall goals, especially after things like the trade show requirement popped up.
Right. Okay, final week, week 6, sprint 3, and project wrap-up.
The last sprint. And there's a strong focus now on getting that compelling demo ready for the trade show. Pressure's likely on.
Yeah, sounds like it. Deliver something polished for that event.
And interestingly, the guide suggests a lesson on anti-patterns here.
Anti-pattern.
Yeah, common ways teams can shoot themselves in the foot, especially under pressure. Ineffective practices that seem like a good idea but actually hinder things.
Ah, good to be aware of those pitfalls when the deadline looms.
Definitely. Then, after Sprint 3 finishes, there's a final project retrospective meeting.
Wrapping up the whole simulation.
Exactly. Lessons on different retrospective exercises are recommended to help the team really reflect on the entire 6-week journey.
Capture those key learnings from the whole experience.
What went well overall, what didn't, what would we do differently next time? Extracting the value from the whole thing.
The final assignments, then, are 6.5, the last release burn down,
Giving a final estimate of effort needed for anything left over.
and 6.9, a personal project retrospective. So, individual reflection.
Yeah, a chance for each learner to think about their own journey through the capstone, the whole SPM specialization. What did they learn?
That personal reflection seems really important for cementing the knowledge.
It is. Thinking about how you'd apply these concepts yourself in the future.
So, looking back at the whole thing, this SPM Capstone, it really does give you a pretty hands-on simulation of managing a software product with Agile and Scrum.
Absolutely. It walks you through the whole life cycle. Understanding needs, managing risks, planning in sprints, tracking progress constantly.
And the way it's structured week by week with specific assignments tied to those recommended lessons, it feels very comprehensive.
Yeah, it provides a well-supported path through the process.
And seeing how things like the release plan and the sprint plans change over time, that really drives home the iterative nature of Agile, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. You see the adaptation in action.
And the focus on retrospective sprint level and project level highlights that continuous improvement piece, always learning, always tweaking the process.
That's such a critical part of Agile culture, yeah.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. Consider this structured approach, these techniques for planning, tracking, reflecting. How could they apply to projects you're involved in, even if it's not software? What parts of this process, resonated with you? What felt like it could be valuable for your own work or just your understanding of how complex things get done?